Hey folks, good evening. Welcome to Moose Live Broadcast number 10. Hey, thanks for joining in. Thanks for being here. Appreciate it. I just got back from rainy, thundery, stormy Wyoming and Montana. Before that, South Dakota. And now I'm here at home in Mammoth. Same kind of weather. So, with the lightning storm that's bouncing around, and you might hear the thunder every so often in the broadcast, there is the remote possibility that we go dark, as in we lose electricity and perhaps our feed. So if we go dark, there's one of two reasons. First, I hit the wrong button, which is really a possibility. Or number two, we lost that all-important electricity. So just wanted to give you a heads up from the get-go what's happening. Well, hopefully you've got your Merlot. In my case, I've got some Chardonnay. Gift from a friend. Can't turn down a good wine. And we're here to get going. Let me see who's all here. So, Tom, you have your popcorn and ready to go. Popcorn. So obviously you're not touching your keypad, keyboard with those buttery fingers. Hopefully I can keep you entertained well enough. And Tom, good to have you here. Well, I'm going to just get going. Let's see how this all works. First, remember that if you subscribe, you will be kept notified when I post things on YouTube and the next live broadcast. Now, next week is Photoshop World, and I'm hoping that I get to do a little crazy little live broadcast from Photoshop World. So, subscribe, and if I do make it happen, you will be the first to know. And remember, you can find me on many social channels. Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, I'm there. YouTube guys, hey, appreciate the people who show up. The trolls, yeah, you can go away. Getting really old. You need to get a life. I feel sorry for you. Next, it's Facebook. Facebook, if you want to leave a comment, I'll comment back. I talk to folks on Facebook. And then Twitter, I comment as much as possible. And you can do anything to help, for example, spread the word. I really appreciate it. The more we can get going on here, I think the more I can make some other things happen for all of you. And but I need some more numbers. So, spread the word. And I know it's been a few weeks, what, 3 or 4? But I have not been somewhere where I had an internet to sit there and do live broadcasts. So, hey, sorry about that. Now, let's see here. I've got, oh my gosh. Hey, David, nice to see you. John, hey, afternoon. Where are you from, man? You must be from the other time zones. So thanks for joining us. Brisbane, hey, Peter, thanks. That's a long ways away. And good day to you too, of course. Emerson! Hey, Emerson! Thanks for spending my money. But by the way, Brent says it's working really good. Emerson's he's my fix. He's a really good guy, really smart, good photographer, but forget that for the moment. He's really smart, and when it comes to this computer stuff where I'm not smart, Emerson is. So he just set up for Brent for our Normandy Bound project a big storage system. So how big is big? Well, it's going to go to 36 terabytes really fast, and then it's going to grow from there. And what's happening is Brent shoots the video, and video is a space hog. So Emerson, thank you so much. Worked killer. Let's see here. We got Lorraine, thanks. Hey, and Bob from Florida. Great to have you guys. Mark, well, thanks for picking up Takeoff, and I'm glad you like it. You have a question right off the bat. Do you ever use group or dynamic AF or ground air? Thanks. For myself, when I do ground air photography, and for those who don't know what that means, I'm on the ground, the planes are flying by. So the same thing would apply with birds. They're flying by. I'm always going to use what I call AAA, or Auto Area AF. That's all there. And you'll find that and a lot more in Takeoff when it comes to modes I use and techniques, especially for ground-to-air photography. That's a good question. Mark Muller, panning airplanes? Yeah, if that's a question, yeah, you have to pan. Hey, Craig from Montreal. Cool. It's great to see you guys all here. I mean, I really, truly appreciate it. So let me just kind of dive into it. So let me start off with, well, simply put, I've been for the last almost 3 weeks on the road, starting in Black Hills, South Dakota. And from there, I got on a plane, kinda, and went to Yellowstone National Park. Now, why do I say kinda? Well, we had in Rapid City, where I was flying out of, an amazing, just amazing electrical storm. How amazing? Well, I'm sitting there going to the hotel that night because my flight was canceled. Saw a lightning bolt hit a tree, and the tree go. I mean, that was way cool. I mean, I wish I had a camera and video because it went just like in the movies or cartoon. It was cool. And then at about 10 o'clock, I'm looking out the window of the hotel, and I had this, because of my status, I had upgraded rooms. So I had actually 3, I could look west, south, and east. And I saw this lightning hit and went, and it went all the way across the horizon. It was probably about a half mile away, because it's been about a quarter of a second, half a second. The thunder hit, and the thunder rumbled for 18 seconds straight. It was killer. It was beautiful. But anyway, let's get to wildlife photography. So I was in Yellowstone, had lots of kids, and I want to show you some good photographs, and I want to show you some bad photographs. Answer Craig Brown's question, have I used the 200 or 500? I have tested it and shot with it. Sharp lens. I personally don't like the balance of it. It's physically very heavy and not balanced. Hard to hold. But it's a great lens as far as sharpness goes, but I don't own one. So, I was in Yellowstone. We had lots of babies, and I want to show you some bad photographs and some good photographs. But before I get there, I want to talk to you about something here real quick. So let me shift back to me, and I need to explain a couple parameters, okay? The first one is, you got to understand when it comes to this wildlife photography, okay, I have moose standards, and I don't expect other people to follow my standards. And here are my standards, and here's why. So first, I've been doing this wildlife thing for a long time, and the majority of my work has always been with scientists, biologists, and my photographs have been an anecdotal data collection methodology. Okay, so in other words, they take my photograph and they use it as data. So that means that I have to be able to take a photograph, and in research, they look at my picture and they go, that's what it was. Okay, as in everything you see, that's what it was. It's a very important standard that has been with me since I started 40 years ago. So that means the photograph doesn't see Photoshop. I don't fix things. I don't remove things. I don't open up shadows, all that kind of stuff. What you see is literally what I shot. And that's a very important standard to me that I still use to this day. And that standard also goes with something that I firmly hold dear, and that's a simple thing. And that's no photograph is worth sacrificing the welfare of a subject. I'll be straight with you. I saw stuff in Yellowstone being done by photographers, and if there wasn't people looking, I would have really gone over those photographers, and they would have gotten a piece of my mind. I mean, seriously, we are, when we're out there, those critters, we are the guest. It is their home, and we get to pick up our gear and go back to our warm hotel or warm home. We get to have food. They don't have that. That's their home. They survive on that. And when you tread on that and you are just the worst possible guest, yeah, I think you should get the boot out of there. So those are my standards, and I want to set that up there before I start showing photographs. So understand that what I'm going to talk about might not apply to your photography. A lot of wild photographers do things such as crop an image, which is, hey, that's your call. Now, why people think they have the big image size, that's a whole nother discussion for another broadcast. But I never crop. What I crop is in the viewfinder. It's not in post. And I don't fix things, okay? That's just the way I do it. Doesn't mean you have to. So I want to make sure that groundwork was out there before I begin. Hey, I see I've got some questions more coming up. What recommendations, Lorraine asked, for shooting shorebirds against sand and reflective water and sky? I'm not sure what you mean by recommendations. I shoot an aperture priority, and I expose to talk about the emotion I want to express. So I'm not sure what you're asking or where you're going with that question. So if you could post a little more definitive question, maybe I could help you. You gotta understand, for me, the basic settings are real simple: aperture priority, auto white balance, and exposure compensation based on the story I want to tell, and that's it. There's no more complications to it. Oh, and with the D5, my wildlife body, I'm always shooting the standard picture control or tone curve. Let's see here. David says you bought a Surrey gimbal head, add an RSS plate, really right stuff. You're asking about the fluidity of the Wimberley. I'm not sure how to answer that for you. First of all, most people crank down all their settings on everything, from the tripod to the minor loosey-goosey for the most part. As I talk about quite often, when it comes to the panning action and those things, you need to set that panning action so loose that you can smoothly pan. At the same time, you have to push it to pan. It doesn't just spin on you. If it's too tight, it will chatter. Too loose, it spins really fast. And as that head heats up or cools down from the ambient air temperature, that changes. So I'm constantly changing that. But you bring up the Zanelli. Zanelli is a killer head, and it is definitely the smoothest of them out there, as well as lightest. But that's a really good question. Okay, glad, Lorraine, that helped you. If you avoid Photoshop, do you avoid RAW and shoot JPEG only? So, Mark, let's think this through for a second, okay? If I shoot JPEG, who's going to be processing that file, right? More importantly, is that file able to be enlarged to make large prints? So, no, I'm shooting RAW, and it's real simple. All my RAW processing is available on the YouTube channels, but basically what I do is I copy the NEF files to a temp folder. I don't work with the original NEF. That's just to save myself from myself, because I do everything late at night, because all my files from that day are going to be processed and filed before I go to bed and backed up. But they're all going to be, the NEF files will be copied to a temp folder. Open that temp folder in Bridge. I control or Command A, select them all, and right click, and you'll see it says develop. It says default RAW settings, which is just simply the preset, which I use all the time. Again, you can find that on YouTube. Hit enter, and I'm done. And that's that fast. So that's it. And yes, I shoot RAW files. You got to have the maximum quality, and JPEG won't give you the maximum quality. All right. So all that, let's just go into this, and let's talk about some pictures. So we had babies everywhere. Great fun. I mean, it was just killer fun. Now, it was a great situation up by Tower, up in Yellowstone. There was a mom that supposedly had 3 cubs, and when we were there, we only saw the 1. Heard lots of reasons why it's possible, but when I saw the way photographers were acting, I can see why the 2 younger cubs, as I was told, weren't showing up. So here's a cub, and here's a photograph, ain't so good. Now, why is it ain't so good? Well, look at this up here. See this highlight up here? The highlight up here, okay? So you might be thinking that the distraction in the foreground or the fact that I can't see the eyes are the problem. Yeah, it's that sky up there that drives me nuts. So first and foremost, okay, the mind's eye goes to light and bright. And with that dark bear, that light and bright at the top of the frame, your eye can't help but see it. That drives me nuts. Now, of course, the actual fact you can't see the eyes, that might be something that the stump in the lower right corner, not as big as a problem for me, but it's those clouds up there. Now, why do I have this photograph? Well, I actually knew I was going to be talking about this, so I saved it. But you'll never see this photograph any place else because it blows chunks because of that bright top right corner. Okay? Now, I'm going to go from worst to the best I got. Now, I'm going to say the best I got because perfect doesn't come into this conversation. Okay? First, you're dealing with critters. Second, in Yellowstone, you're dealing with the public, which, oh boy, could I go on a rant on the public. Okay? But third, perfection isn't part of this. If you don't know what I'm talking about, listen to the Moose podcast from this last Monday. So the next shot, you might be saying, whoa, what's wrong with that? I mean, what's wrong with that photograph? First and foremost, look at the quality of the light, okay? Quality of the light. That's everything. So what's the subject? You gotta always ask yourself, what is the subject? In this case, it's a cute, fuzzy little spring cub, okay? That light says anything but cute, fuzzy little cub. It's like this guy is in these horrible headlights and was caught and frozen on this slope. And that horrible light not only doesn't bring out the cute fuzziness in the cub, look what it does to the background. Yuck, okay? And I'm going to talk about background a lot because background is everything. So this particular, yeah, not so good. Not going to see that one out there. Okay, now we got this one. And you'll be saying, okay. So hopefully you're going to go back through the podcast and look through the series of photographs. Think about this on your own time because it's really important. So what's the problem with this one? Well, the light's a little bit better. You can see that we don't have the harsh highlights. We did have a bit of a God stream come in, okay? In fact, we had a huge hailstorm come in right after we got done with this shot. We went over to the peregrine eyrie and we couldn't even photograph it because it was mantling, protecting its 4 eggs. Anyway, so what's wrong with this? Look at this thing going into its head right here. Okay, so it's got this brightness on the right top corner. That line brings you down and goes into the cranium. Okay, I mean, it just isn't comfortable. So in presenting the photograph I want to share, I'm going to share the best that tells the story as well as all the rest of the elements in the frame. That's so important. So in this series, the best one I'm going to talk about is to kind of be like, you know, get in there now. We got it's a little bit nice light. Might ask if I should have used a polarizer. You know, it's a 50-50. Why would I have used a polarizer? If you look at the grasses here, you'll see these bright highlights in the grasses. Polarizer would have removed those highlights and perhaps opened up a little bit in the cub, okay? But I would have lost 2 stops. And those 2 stops of light from the polarizer with a cub that's boing, 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 boing everywhere on the hillside, I don't know if I could afford those 2 shutter speeds. So I didn't do that. Now I think, nope. Yeah, that's the lab, you know, for that series, go through them again. Yeah, that one blows chunks. You're never going to see the light of day again. This one is just not cute and cuddly. This has got the spear of death going through its cranium. And now we got a little cuteness from light and action. So that's kind of how I'm looking at these photographs and making things happen in the viewfinder as well, what I share with you. So let me take a couple questions. I see them starting to pile up. Do you always try to shoot at the lowest ISO if possible? Red Og 911. Yes, that is exactly true. I'm going to be in the D5 at 100 ISO, the D850 64. Now, with that said, in the scenario you see right here with the black bear, first of all, black bears, grizzly bears, elk, they all have 2 types of fur. And the one type of fur they use to basically kind of keep themselves warm can mess with, you know, what you want to do with exposure. For this case, I'm at -1 stop. So I'm shooting at -1 exposure compensation. When I did that, that raised the shutter speed 1 full stop. The God Stream came in, lowered the light, that took away a stop and a half. So I'm kind of still in the hole. So these shots, I actually raised the ISO to 200 ISO because I have a basic rule of thumb with action that's going on, that's predictable, continual action. I like to have a shutter speed of 125 or higher. And with the D5, I know I can crank the ISO up. I don't like doing that. I don't like doing it even at 200 because I want to maximize my quality. So I'm always at 100, but like you said, if possible. But the rest of the time, I'm going to go by case basis. And I haven't shot a spring cub in years, so I wanted to get the shot. Great question, though. Thank you. Andrew asked if I can explain why I shoot critters in aperture priority. It's real simple. I want to control the depth of field. The subject has to visually pop. In a very busy world like this, how else you can do it? Be in control of the aperture. That said, most of the time I'm shooting wide open, so the computer or in the camera is dealing with a shutter speed, which is stepless. So it just makes sense. It's fast, it's quick, and it's accurate. John, I was out at the local airport open house last weekend. I should say your tips on every channel really paid off. My images. Oh, cool. Well, John, great for getting out. It's great to hear you out there shooting, and I'm glad some of those things helped you in your storytelling. I like that. Appreciate you telling me that. Tom, I don't shoot as many pictures per day as you. Hey, Tom, nobody does. I'm a little bit of an addict. I'm a little bit crazed. No. I'm a lot crazed, so no one shoots as much as I do, and that's okay. What do you think about using USB drives for daily backup? I would do it, Tom, but that's up to you. USB drives are notorious for failing, so I personally wouldn't do that. You might refer back to a podcast a couple weeks ago. If it's worth doing at all, it's worth doing right. And that's just me. What is your attitude about using auto ISO for birds in varying flight? I don't know if you just heard what I said, Andrew, about ISO, but I think that pretty much blew out of the water auto ISO. Keep in mind, I have a very, for myself, strict standard. And ISO means a computer is making decisions about my storytelling. I wouldn't do that. Why would anybody do that? Okay, that's just my thing. Boy, what situation do you use flash with critters? Lorraine asked. So first, I don't have a rule book. I don't have any kind of rule book. Other than I love my wife all the time. The only rule I got. Otherwise, kind of go from baseline data and make decisions on the fly. That said, the one time I might use flash, you could say majority of the time, is when photographing birds in shadowy light, because that flash will give me 5500 Kelvin and the true color of that bird. Gordon, am I going to Oshkosh this year? Yes, in fact, I am going to Oshkosh. We will be doing 5 days of book signing. They have brought me in for takeoff. We got a bunch going on, so I'll be at Osh. As far as the Twin Mustang, yeah, I know it's going to be there. I've seen it at its, been fortunate to visit it at its hangar there, where it's being restored. It's very cool. Also visited the one there at Wright-Patterson. So yeah, looking forward to seeing it. Let's get on some other critter pictures. So, yeah, turkeys. Now here's the deal with me. So, every Thanksgiving, I want a turkey picture to post. They are hard to photograph. So I was up in the Custer State Park in the Black Hills, and we had some turkeys strutting about. Now, I can do a really bad and it gets turkeys really just like, what the hell is that? And sometimes they run away, and sometimes they get upset. This guy, he got totally blue in the face, okay, which is where the phrase came from. They're not that blue-red when they first start this. Took the shot with a 300 millimeter out the window of the vehicle. That background drives me nuts. That green and brown edge, it might as well be sky. It's horrible. So, change a little bit. Okay, now, it's got a sliver of it. Yeah, I'm still not liking it. More importantly, not liking the posture of that turkey. Got to keep working the situation. Now he gets close. Now I got what? I've got basically a green background, a couple burnt stems in the thing, but it doesn't bother me. But more importantly, biologically, I've got a full strut going on. What's that mean? So That big tail is totally fanned, okay? Totally fanned. His primaries from his wing, those black and white striped feathers, they drag those on the ground as they strut. He's got those completely erect and out. He's got all his body feathers, okay, all puffed out. Totally like, I am ready for you, honey. And then the total morph of his blue face and the red wattle is all complete. He's got his funny, and I can't remember the name of it, the little hair coming off the chest there. You know, it's just, and then the best part was, we just finished one of those big thunderstorms. We got the sky breaking up, and that incredible all the way around, wrap around saturated light just brought up the iridescence in that body. You can see where I got just a slight shadow. That was the soft quality of the light that's falling. All these were taken with the 300 PF on the D5. Now, hey, will you see this picture on my blog post Thanksgiving? Oh yeah, will ya? And when it comes to the business side, when it comes to critter photography, the best paying photography out there, or the best paying critter, are turkeys. Big money in turkeys. Not for the local market for Thanksgiving, but for all those people who spend lots of time, money trying to hunt these guys. And I'm here to tell you from personal experience, nothing tastes as good as a wild turkey. Yum. Okay, we have to have priorities. Remember that. Must have priorities. Let's see here. A couple more questions. Do you use photography blinds at all? No, I don't. The only exception would be is if I'm working with a tern colony, and I haven't done that for way too long. So I do not use any blinds or hides for those not in North America. You know what? I did take that back. I don't think about it because I won't set it up. But when I photograph prairie chickens and sharp-tailed grouse, we're in a blind, but the blind is a school bus, as in a big yellow school bus. So it's not what, in my mind, I think of as a blind, because it's a school bus, but we are essentially in a blind. Currently own the newer version of the 8400. Have opportunity to upgrade to 200 for a really good price. Hey, Bradley, did you know I'm selling mine? I don't know, but I'm selling my VR2. Thoughts on the upgrade? Worth it? Shooting with a D5? Yes. So to get to your question, Brady, excuse me. Brady, wow. Sorry, I don't have my glasses on. Brady. So first, 8400 versus 200 or 400. My own personal opinion and use. I love the 200 400. I'm not a huge fan of the 8400 for two reasons. One, the actual lens in my hands when I'm using proper hand holding, it just, the weight and the balance just doesn't seem to work with me. It's a moose thing, not a lens thing, okay? It just, you know, the 200 400, it's just a rock steady, easy to hand hold, panning, great lens. Number two, the 200 400 can use any teleconverter and you'll have amazing results. 8400 has a lot of glass in there, so the first thing that happens when you put a teleconverter on there, you might start losing the ability of the outer side AF sensors to grab and lock on the focus. So there's a couple things I want to mention to you. Brady, last thing, if you're really looking for a good 200 400, like new, give my office a call. I actually will be posting that sale tomorrow. Let's see here. Oh, yes, you're right, good dog. It's called the Beard. Duh. That's obvious. I'm telling you. Wait, pause. Time for Chardonnay. All right, nothing like a good liquor hit. All right, Lorraine. Hey, Lorraine, thanks for the compliment. Go shoot them turkeys. Let's get back to some more pics. Badger pups. So this was literally my first chance and opportunity to photograph badger pups. Talk about on the cuteness scale, breaking it. Now, I have I've never photographed a badger with digital. I have shot a lot in the days of film. Now, this particular scenario, there's supposedly 3 pups. I only saw 2. Some people said 4 pups, but still only saw 2. So what have we got going? I'm shooting the 800mm lens, standing out in the open, way too much commotion from photographers who know better as far as I'm concerned. Here's a great opportunity. First big problem, heat shimmer. There's heat shimmer bouncing off every bit of this grass non-stop. So for me to shoot, I need to make sure there's a little bit of a wisp of wind to bat it down. Next, I placed myself so I had this background back here. So you would have some idea of the space, the visual depth in which this badger lived. Now, if you're saying this is the worst one, yeah, because I can't really see that kid as well, and I'm not really getting a good story going on. I love badgers. I mean, badgers are way cool. I would spend a lot of time with them if I had the opportunity. So I looked forward and had a great time with it a couple times at the den. We went back twice. These are all from the first day. Now, there's a general saying I tell photographers when it comes to bird photography. Butt shots are rude, okay? But here, it looks like they're having a little bit of a parlay. Actually, they're looking over the edge of the den. This dirt here is from the badger that has thrown out all this dirt, and they are incredible diggers, okay? And it was interesting, I was looking at all the different mounds around, and it picked this one because of the sandy loam soil, which is really easy for these guys just to dig through. And they're actually looking down into the other side and into the entrance, because that's where the other pups were hanging out. So I took that shot only because I knew that if I had the opportunity to verbally explain the whole story, people would listen and look at it. But if I just put this picture up by itself, no one would pay any attention to it. So then I got out to the shot where I'm kind of like, now I'm getting to where I'm talking a little bit more about the grasslands, the prairie it lives in, the site, and of course some of the characteristics which makes the badger a badger, which of course is those stripes on its face. But two things, I waited for the ears to be pointing forward, okay? It gives it more of an alert and a friendly and a attentive kind of look. And then I wanted it looking off into the distance. That was really kind of important to me. So that's kind of like, you know, how I was looking at the photograph and going from not the best to what I think is the best I had available from the shoot. And then finally, to the last one I liked the most, and this is because, well, a lot of things are going in here. So first of all, right, I've got the big mound of dirt that I excavated. And, you know, just I would have loved to have been there by myself for the opportunity. Next, I've got the really nice posture from the tail curve all the way up to the nose tip, okay? Photo gods were looking out for me. I had this cool breeze going by as the thunderheads were starting to get ready to dump, and that took away the heat shimmer. And then I've got that really nice background. It's a mountain on the other side. We're out by Soda Butte, Yellowstone. And the distance from here to here is about 3 miles. So even if I were to close the lens down to f/64, you're not going to see anything. It's not physically possible. And it's just a nice clean shot of a badger looking over its habitat. And that's really important to me. That's why I'm not an eyeball photographer. It's why I don't understand people's always trying to get a really tight image, because when you do that, you take away its home. And we were taking away a home for enough critters. That's why they're extinct. So I don't want to do it in my photography. Let's see if I got some more questions. Let's see here. Carol! Hi, Carol. Glad you made it. Red Dog. Will the new Nikon 18400 make it into your photo bag? Well, Red Dog, you know, I don't know if it's Red Dog. Sorry, I think it's Red Dog. Anyway, that's a really great question. So when they first announced the 18400, you can go back and see a blog post I wrote. You know, like everything, when something new comes out, I always look to see if it's a tool that I need, it's going to solve a problem. And since the lack of the use of the 200-400 that I have in my bag, by the way, did I tell you I'm selling my 200-400? Anyway, that lens has gotten very little use in the last 2 years. So spending the money for a lens that basically replaced that didn't make any sense to me. Fast forward the clock to the last 10 days. Got 2 projects that came in that point blank, having the versatility of a 180-400 with a 1.4 built in a small size just makes good sense. And for the business, that expense, and that's, you got to understand, when I make a purchase, okay, I'm going to try the lens first, and then I'm going to sit there and decide if it solves problems, and then financially, if it's going to work. Because the basic rule of thumb is for every dollar you spend, you got to earn 5. So you might think it's 12,000. Do the math. It's going to have to take more than that. So the last 10 days, looking at the projects, looking at what I need to do, what I need to deliver to clients, actually, I'm going to get that 180-400. Now, my producer's here, and she's not kicking me, so we're doing okay. It's going to be a thing that's going to work. So, yeah, it's going to end up in my bag. What are your main AF modes when photographing critters? So, John, that's a great question. A lot of people ask that. So keep in mind I'm shooting with a D5, and the answer I'm going to give you only going to help you if you shoot with a D5. And that's because I use the Group HL. And the Group HL is only available on the Nikon D5. Now, other bodies, before that showed up, I typically would use the Group Area AF. That was my preferred for photographing anything but flying birds. It's a great question and very common. AdCal 178. So you don't use blinds. How do I get so close? It's called knowing basic biology. Been doing this for a long time, and you know, when people go out and shoot with me, they kind of scratch their head because I always get them in the right place at the right time. They wonder, like, how does he do that? Because there's not just me, but like this last trip, I had 2 or 3 other photographers with me. How do I do that? I know my subject. It goes right back to what we first were taught in grammar school when we were first taught how to write. And you got to know your subject to write about it. Same with photography. Nothing changes. So let's keep on going. What have I got? Oh yeah, I love bison. I'm in here. So this is shot in Custer. Had a nice kind of a God's trim going on. Had this really great, you know, attitude shot, like, what are you looking at? You know, I just kind of like that. So shot with a 300 PF D5, but this up here, which I see the viewfinder, don't work. Look what happens. There it is. There it isn't. Yeah, I'm moving it up in the frame a tad. But see what happens when I do that? Your eye can't help but go there. Now here's the problem. You don't know your eye is going up there until you train yourself to look at that. Until you see those light and brights, especially top of the frame, you don't see them. I bet you go back and look at your pictures, though, and you're going to start seeing more and more of them. That simple little thing makes a huge difference. Now, good headshot. Love a great headshot. So the first thing is, you know, color a little bit off, okay? See all that blue tint? Now I'm using a polarizer, so I get that green there, but I've got a little bit of blue in him still. That's part of the you know, trade-off. But there's a headshot. Okay, it's all right. It could be, you know, it's not quite an awkward crop. There's enough here that for me it doesn't look like it's attached to a wall of your local tavern that you see after 20 drinks. It doesn't look that bad. But we can do better. What if we just wait a few minutes? Big thing in wildlife photography. Just wait a few minutes. Laying down, little good posture, okay, working. But hey, keep more minutes, and you know they're gonna do this. They can't help themselves, okay? Now, hopefully at this point you're doing a little chuckling. That's a good thing, because whenever you can sit there and make someone chuckle when they look at your photograph, hey, you win. You get the brass ring. And that's the idea, right? Here's this big 1-ton, yes, 2,000-pound animal. Looks like he's picking a nose, right? And there's still children in all of us. And when you say pick your nose, everybody goes, kind of giggles, right? So why not take advantage of it in your photograph? Bring some humor in. Now, background is everything. We got that building storms over the prairie. You got this incredible spring green, which was, wow, gorgeous in Custer. But then look at the bottom of the frame. You couldn't ask for anything more ugly, right? So how would you deal with that? In this case, let my foot off the brake, and I got closer. 300 PF out the window, simply got closer. Now, the character of the light, really important to look at. Look at the shadow on the ground. It's pretty hard light, pretty contrasty. That's okay. That's what gives all this texture to that molt that's going on. This, the rustier brown color, that's the winter coat that's slowly shedding because summer's coming. This right here is the clean new pelt for the summer to stay cool. And that mud, they're always wallowing around in mud for two things: get rid of bugs, and this time of year to help get rid of this molt. Look at all that crust. That texture and crust comes with the contrasty light. So that's part of the process. Got to think about it. Story you want to tell, how do you do that? We had this really weird thing in Custer for almost 2.5 days, maybe 3 days. We just had solid fog. It means fog at times so solid you could not see the front of the car. I'm still going to go shooting because some of the worst weather makes some of the best photography. Had pronghorn. Got to get close, physically, 300mm lens. Because at too much distance, you can see the trees here, right? There's no information. Pronghorn have a nice heart shape when they get to be a really old buck. This guy's not really old, doesn't have that really perfect heart shape. But we could work the scenario by me just waiting and watching. Now look what happens. See the ears? Ears are back. Why is the ears back? He's listening to the car idle that's behind him, wondering what's happening. Decides to look. Okay, ears go forward. Instantly we make it, an improvement just from that. But it's just a I was here shot, right? I don't really like to do I was here shots. What can we do? Well, how about we change where he is in the frame and we get a glancing shot, right? So the glancing shot, if you do this right, so the lines, you look at the lines. We got the horizon line going up. We got the brightest thing, the butt, okay? Yes, I do arc shots for critters, just like planes when things work. Your eye comes up here, and then your eye goes through here. You see the fog, and your eye just keeps making this circle, okay? That's how you arrange elements. Tell a story, and then, of course, the ears back, the eyes forward. That gesture kind of tells a little bit of the story going on with the pronghorn. And that's really what we want to do. We want to tell stories. Stories about light, okay? Early morning, a doe. Look at that foreground up there. Yuck, okay? That beautiful rim light, it's being lost, okay? Look at the difference. Now, it's a small detail, but two things. First of all, the white balance. I'm not on auto white balance. I want that warmth. I'm in cloudy. I need that 6,000 Kelvin to bring out that warmth. Two, I was making sure that as much as possible, brightness in the background is gone. So the rim lighting, which is really sexy on this girl, okay, is working for me. So I'm underexposed, 1 2/3 stop. That's right, 1.7. I'm underexposing. I want to bring out the rim lighting. I want some of that back there to disappear. But lastly, and it's a small detail, and I will only notice it until I point it out to you, he's got his tongue in his cheek, right? So to me, he's doing a tongue in cheek. Ha! Get it? See, only I would. It's the rest of the photograph I need you to see and get involved in. That's what this is all about, as well as the background. Same doe, a little bit later in the day, totally different story, totally different light, totally different background. And that's how we do wildlife photography. It's kind of just like that. So let me switch back over to live. And let me see what else I got I can help you with. David says, I loved it when my grandfather cows did that. Cool. Now, I see I'm already over time. I've kind of gone over things. Remember that as the broadcast goes away, you can still keep posting here on YouTube. I'll keep answering for you. Next week, Photoshop World, okay, I'll be there. So will Sharon and Brent and Kat. We're there doing lots of things from pre-cons to classes to helping you with questions. So you've got them. Please walk up. I hope you'll be at Photoshop World. It's really one of the great events that happens. It's good for your soul, good for your creative spirit, and it's great to see old friends and to make new ones. Other than that, keep tuning in. Watch the website, daily posts, tell folks. And thanks again for joining a little bit of time with me this evening. And remember to make every click your story. Night, folks. Thanks for coming in.